What we're going to be talking about today is things you can do from a compensation strategy perspective to try and drive the behavior of the sales team in a particular way that's aligned to the direction of the business. Because the purpose of the sales team is actually to execute a sales strategy that helps the business achieve the objectives that the business wants to achieve. That makes sense. So the first decision you have to make is, how do I want this to look in my company? Do I want a 70% base salary and 30% commission? Do I want it half and half? So that's decision number one. So total cash target, cash compensation. That's your first tactic you have to do. That's pretty easy, right? That's not complicated. The next one is you have to decide on leverage. This is actually easy as well. So let's say we've got a mix of 80-20. So 80% of the package is salary and 20% of it is commission. Okay. So what this is called here, between the 80 and the 100, that's called leverage. Okay? So it's leverage. So it means if I sell things, I get to leverage some extra income from me. This is called 1 times leverage. So I make 1 times the commission element. So if the commission element was 20,000, I make 20,000. The second thing we've got to do once we've decided on the total target cash compensation is decide how much leverage we want for the top 10% of the sales team. So this is important. How much leverage do we want for the top 10% of the sales team? So if I had 100 salespeople, the top 10% are going to be the superstars in the team. How much do I want them to earn? And typically what you want them to earn is what we call 3 times leverage. Now we're going to talk about some adjusters. So the first adjuster is what we call flat commission. This is the tool that is most often used in sales compensation plans. So it's 30 grand base salary and you get 5% commission. It's a flat rate the whole way. So whether you sell 100,000 or you sell 500,000, it's all 5%. Not really the best tool. Okay. This is called a progressive ramped plan. So what this one says is it's 5% for the first 500,000. After that, it's 7.5%, because we're making a lot more margin now because our overhead's covered. The overhead of the salesperson is covered, so we can afford to pay more margin. So it's now going to be good for us as the owners of the company, and it's great for the salespeople because they can get really excited about selling a lot more now. Okay? So it's good for both. So it's called a progressive adjuster. This is my favorite sales compensation tool. The first time you see this, it's very easy to go into a deep trance, but it's really easy to understand. So what you do is you've got a matrix. Running across the bottom of the matrix and the side of the matrix are the 2 drivers that I want the salesperson to focus on. So in this example, I want them to focus on gross margin and revenue. You see that? Follow that piece? These gray cells across the bottom and up on the side here are percentage of target on those drivers. So this would be 150% of the gross margin target, and that would be 150% of the revenue target. We follow that piece? Okay. These pieces then all in the middle are the percentage I'm going to pay based upon the achievement of 2 targets. So here it's really simple. So if I've got 60% of my gross profit target and I've got 120% of my revenue target, I'd get 0.8% commission on everything. If I got 150% of my revenue target and 150% of my margin target, I'd get 3% on everything. Okay? So you can decide how much, so you can mix up 2 different behaviors or targets that you want the salespeople to focus on, and it becomes very clear to them really quickly. I may bring in a lot of revenue, but if I'm not getting the right level of margin, my compensation gets hurt, and they get that message really quickly when you get this. So I'm going to show you how you build this. So the first thing that you do is you decide what's the maximum percentage for high performance. So you'd say my superstars might do 150% of margin and 150% of revenue. So that's the first thing I'm going to do. Then I'm going to decide how much I'm going to pay for top performance, I'm going to pay 3% for superstars, and I'm actually going to pay nothing for the dismal failures in the sales operation. Then I'm going to decide what's the adjuster based on not achieving one of the objectives. Okay? So if I get one objective but I don't get the other, then it's down to 0.6. This will make sense as you see it being filled out. Then I fill out the diagonals. So I go 3, 2.5, 2, 1.5, 1 down, and then I fill in the other diagonal. Is that making sense so far? So go like this so I know everybody's with me. Yep. And then I fill in the rest of it. Now you can fill in the rest of it two different ways. So you can fill it in using what we call geometric progression. And all geometric progression means is it's the same jump each time. 1.5 to 2 to 2.5 to 3. So it goes up 0.5 each time. So it's just geometric, same step each time. I don't particularly like that way of doing it, because I really like to influence salespeople's behavior. So I have a different way I like to do it. I like to do it with a non-linear progression. So now you see I've gone 130, then 170, then I've jumped to 230, and then jumped again to 3. So you see the way we've done that? So what it tells the salesperson is the more I sell, the higher commission I make on everything I've sold. So this is what we call a retroactive plan. So they get that commission rate on everything they've sold when they get to that stage of the target. Does that make sense? Yeah? So it's retroactive.